Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome here if you are new. I'm Manganet and this is the second episode of Insanity Goes On, where me and Holy Tash publish one crazy over-the-top reading vlog on the first Sunday of every month. Last month we did this incredible thing of ChatGPT controlling our TBR based on prompts that we were giving it, and it was excellent. If you haven't watched it yet, go have a look here, and the links will be in the description as well for the playlist with all these videos. That was so much fun. This month, however, we are challenging ourselves to do something that has been going around BookTube for a while, to be honest, which is this vlog can only finish once I read a 5-star book. This has a lot of potential and this could be very, very interesting if it wasn't for the fact that from all the books I've read this year, which weren't that many, but I haven't given a single 5-star rating. And here I am trying to find the first 5-star read of the year with the pressure of you guys looking at me and waiting for it. So without further ado, let's get started. For this I'm going to be using books on my TBR shelf and we're going to read them, we're going to discuss them, and hopefully they'll be a 5-star book. Obviously I have to go into this with a strategy because I'm not going to be reading books just for reading books.
Because that would be insane.
It needs to be a book that I think it's going to be a 5 stars. But more than that, it needs to be a book that I'm almost certain it's going to be a 5 stars. How does one know that? I have no idea. So I've been looking at my bookshelves and pondering basically what do I do in my life. And I think I landed on the first book for this vlog. Our House by Louise Candlish. I don't know what this is about. I knew in times, but now I've forgotten. But basically, this book isn't new, but it's one of those that for one reason or another, it starts being very famous out of nowhere. Basically, I've seen people reading this, a lot of people, mostly on Instagram, and everyone's been giving it 4 and 5 stars, saying it's super bingeable, you read it in one go, and the twist is amazing. And even people who read thrillers all the time, they seem to love this. My dudes, I'm trusting you. I'm putting my faith for this vlog literally in your hands. And this is the book that I'm gonna start reading. And let's see if I find a 5 stars straight away. Everyone knows that's not gonna happen. But manifest. Manifesting we shall. So far so good. I'm going on to chapter 11. So I've read 70 pages. I don't want to jinx it, but I think we are on a good line. And that line is going good places. I didn't tell you what the story was about earlier because I didn't know, so let me mention that briefly. It's this woman that is getting separated from her husband. Something happens, I'm not gonna spoil, but they are in the process of getting separated. And she's supposed to be out of town with work, but then she decides she needs to come home earlier. They're doing this arrangement where the kids live permanently in the house, and her ex-husband bought or are renting, I don't know, another apartment, which is their like secondary house. The kids are always in their main house and they rotate between themselves, and when one of them is not there, they are in the other apartment, and they have some set rules of what can be done in each place. So she comes home earlier from her work trip, and when she gets there, all her things are gone, and there's this other woman there saying she bought the house, and she starts showing her the documents and the emails to the solicitors and all of that, and everything matches up. But basically it's just her trying to figure out what happened. Then there's multiple, let's call it perspectives. It's all the same timeline, I would say. There's the perspective of her with this other woman in the house and her being told the house has sold and what's happening. Then there's the perspective of her in the podcast. Actually, I think that's a different timeline. The podcast is 6 months later or something, but she's on this podcast and she's telling the story. And on that perspective, there's also comments from the listeners of the podcast. And then there's another perspective of her husband writing the story as well into a Word document. So he's not telling it to anyone, or at least we don't know yet who's addressed to, but he's telling the same story from his perspective. So it's actually quite interesting because we have the perspective as it's happening, and then later as she is recalling that it happened, and as the husband thinks it happened. So the whole thing is very interesting. That's why I'm saying it's in a good line, and I think the line is going places. But I think that right now, the place that I want to go is to bed. So I'm thinking, I go to the kitchen, I grab a cheeky snack, and then I go to bed and I carry on reading. Sounds like a plan. It's 2 a.m. and I'm almost halfway through the book. It's still very interesting. I feel like the main plot of the story has now changed. Obviously, they are going to be related, and it's changed to make us find out how they are related. So we have the situation of the house that I told you, and then there's a second situation that is happening. And it's looking like this second situation is going to justify why the house was sold or how come the house was sold to the other couple. I have no theories. Every now and then there's a reveal that leaves me a bit like, what? Especially the things that led to this second situation. So I'm definitely interested in continuing. It's still looking like it's on a line that goes somewhere nice or whatever it was that I said earlier. But it's 2 a.m. and I'm getting really tired, so I'm gonna sleep. And I'll see you tomorrow. I've been awake since 9 a.m. or half 9, and it's now past 12, but I'm not really awake. I'm still in my pajamas, and I'm so tired. My intention was to 100% go back to sleep at like 10 a.m. after I had breakfast, but then the dogs wanted to go to the garden, so I came back downstairs with them, and Suki was refusing to get back in. And I was like, fine, I'll just have a nap in the sofa now. I've just been here on my phone, not doing anything. So I thought, might as well get some more reading done. At the moment, it's looking like a 4 stars because there hasn't been anything major happening in the middle section for a bit. I'm hoping that it picks up and then it becomes a 5 star straight away. Wouldn't that be awesome? It's many hours later, and today I had all plans and intentions of dedicating the entire day to read and finishing the book. I got a big chunk in the morning when I talked to you. It looks literally like I did nothing to it. But I thought I read for a bit. Maybe I didn't. Anyway, then I got sleepy and I took a nap, and then the rest of the day I literally have no idea what happened to it. It's 1 in the morning. And I think I've been sitting here planning to read since like half 9 p.m. I'm gonna get some reading done now because it's 1 in the morning, but it might as well be 3 p.m. because time is a construct that doesn't exist in my life anymore. Just as I was about to come here and tell you that the book is kind of losing me, such a big plot twist just happened. Page 276, if you know, you know. It literally had me pausing the audiobook just so I could sink it all in and go like... Sadly though, I honestly don't think this is gonna be a 5 star. It was so good in the beginning, but it's one of those books where the middles just get really dull. And I have the feeling that it's just because it's so long. Like, this book is 435 pages. It's quite a long book for a thriller. The middle is just dragging, and yeah, every now and then there's a sprinkle. There was this really big plot twist right now, but still, drags. And if we were more to the point, I'd still be here, but at this point, I feel like this will most likely end up being a 4 stars, which is a shame because I was so hopeful that we were going to be able to finish this vlog straight away, even though that wouldn't make for interesting content, but it would make for a successful story. It's 1:43 a.m. I'm tired, but I'm not that sleepy, so I feel like I have it in me to read for a bit longer before I go to bed. Yesterday I ended up not reading anything of the books. I'm still at the same spot, but I'm gonna try and get some reading done right now. I don't think I'm gonna be able to finish it in one go, but I'm gonna sit here, read and listen to the audiobook and paint my nails. And let's see, still looking like a 4. Let's see if we can improve it. I only have a little bit left and it's not gonna be a 5 stars. I'm bored. I'm even considering if it's gonna end up being a 3 stars instead of a 4. I have 20 minutes left to finish my book. And I'm dreading it because I was reading it last night and it just keeps getting worse and worse. I think that right now it says 3 stars and I don't know how 20 minutes from the end anything's gonna change my mind on that. And I just feel like this is such a downfall that I don't even want to know how it finishes. I have no interest. I'm dreading finishing those last 20 minutes and having to confront myself with the reality that this is a 3 star book. book. I have no further updates besides what I said. It ended up being at 3 stars. I'm so disappointed. It dragged so much in the middle. The ending is an open ending, spoiler, and I do love an open ending, but this one was very frustrating. Here's my Goodreads review in case you are curious, but basically, no, we didn't find a 5-star read straight away in this vlog, even though it did look like it at the beginning, which means that tomorrow is time to go to my bookcase and pick a new book. So stay put and let's find out what we're gonna try next. For the second book of this adventure of finding a 5-star read, I decided to go with a thriller, and I started the other day The Kind Worth Saving by Peter Swanson. This is a prequel to the book The Kind Worth Killing, which was either the first or the second thriller that I've read ever. Back then I loved it. Do I remember anything at all about it? No. I don't remember anything from the other book, but I've been told by several people, and even random reviews, that you don't really need to reread the other book, because the other book has been out for, I don't know, 10 years. People say you don't really need to reread it in order to read this one, that this does a good enough job at recapping. I don't know if that applies to me and my extreme bad memory, but let's hope. I'm broken because you know this book that everyone loves, The Kind Worth Saving? I just got to halfway point last night before sleeping and I'm not loving it. I'm not even liking it that much. It's like at 3 stars at the moment. We're following 2 timelines. The current one, we have Joan asking this guy Kimball, who is a private investigator, to follow her husband and prove that her husband Richard is cheating on her. The previous timeline, which was the one that I'm more interested, was when Joan was a teenager, and it's basically how she met Richard in one summer, in like summer destination thing with their families and the things they were doing together, and they were planning to kill his cousin because his cousin tried to abuse Joan, and that's the timeline that I'm interested in. So whenever we read that, I'm there for it. The current timeline of him following her husband. Obviously, I'm curious to know if Richard is actually cheating on her, but the timeline itself is a bit weird. But that's the thing, I don't remember what happened on the previous book, so even though there's these mentions, I'm able to recognize that they are being a reference to the first book, but I don't remember the details, and I feel like that is highly impacting the story to me. And people say you don't need to reread the first book, that it does a good job recapping, but does it? Because I recognize that it's about the first book, but I don't remember anything about it. Like, if the same characters come back, I won't remember if they're the good guy or the bad guy. But at the same time, the stories seem to be fairly independent. We're just, like, we have this guy Kimball in common, but it's a different story. So does it really matter if you remember it or not? Anyway, I'm a mess. I'm not loving it, which it's obviously not great for this vlog. And I'm also getting worried because I am running out of time. It is currently Wednesday and this vlog is supposed to come on Sunday. But I still also need to read a 5-star book. I lied. The story is actually getting interesting. Just barely past halfway, but I was reading in bed earlier for like, I want to say an hour, but I'm not sure. But anyway, then I got up, I got dressed, I had some pancakes for breakfast, second breakfast. I'm gonna sit and read for a little bit before I start falling asleep again, because invariably that's what's gonna happen. But I was saying, I lied, because the story is actually getting interesting. We are now, I don't want to say following a different timeline, but we are clearly in a different part of the story. But I don't know how to explain it without giving it spoilers. But something happened, and I was very surprised that something happened, like halfway through the book, because I was like, what is the rest of the book going to be about? But now, then just at the end of part 1, there was a character from the previous book that came back, and the only reason why I remember that character was because pages before that character was mentioned. Is this a spoiler? Because now if you read it and when you hear the mention about the other character, now you're going to be expecting them to show up later on in the book. But it is what it is. It's very heavy based on psychological games and manipulation of people, like people manipulating other people, which, if I remember correctly, it's also a main theme on the first book. So that's interesting that we're following Not the same story, not at all the same story, but the same vibe of everyone is manipulating everyone and who can we trust. It's not a 5 stars at the moment, but I think I managed to get from a 3 to a 4, so who knows what's happening next. I finished the book after a very long reading session. I was just sitting on the sofa for ages and I finished it. And it did get better indeed, but it did not surpass the 4 stars. Do I think it's life-changing? No. Do I agree with what other people are saying in reviews of this book, that it's absolutely amazing after this one? Also no. Do I think that Peter Swanson is a great author? Honestly, also no, because I did love this back in the day, but I've read 2 other books besides this one, and now this one from him, and I don't think any of them are amazing, so this was not a 5-star read, which leaves us with a big problem because tomorrow is Thursday. I have Thursday, Friday, Saturday to find a 5-star book to publish this video Sunday evening. I'm feeling the pressure. I think I chose my next book. However, I'm still gonna go downstairs, have a look at the bookcases, just in case there's something that pops up. But I read a thriller, so now I'm thinking I need something emotionally hard-hitting to, you know, clear the vibes. I wanted a romance. Initially I thought maybe like a nice and cozy romance, but then I thought no, I want to be emotionally destroyed, because that's what has the potential to be 5 reads, not something funny. Because you never give 5 stars to something that is just funny. Except the Unhoneymooners, which I did give 5 stars, and I read twice, and twice I agreed it was a 5 stars. Anyway, what I was thinking, here it is. Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which apparently it's this couple that just meets on a rainy New Year's Day. She heads out to pick up a pizza for what? She isn't expecting to see anyone else in the shop, much less the adorable and charming Ben Ross. Their chemistry is instant and electric. Ben cannot even wait 24 hours before asking to see her again. Within weeks, the two are head over heels in love. By May, they're eloped. I resonate with this part of the story because when me and Josh met a lifetime ago, we also moved super fast. And it's one of those things, when you know, you know. I hate being cheesy, but when you know, you know. Anyway, the part that hopefully I don't resonate is only 9 days later, Ben is out riding his bike when he is hit by a truck and killed on impact. Elsie hears the sirens outside her apartment, but by the time she gets downstairs, he has already been whisked off to the emergency room. At the hospital, she must face Susan, the mother-in-law she has never met, and who doesn't even know Elsie exists. This is a bit weird, because if you're gonna move fast, move fast. But if you have family, you need to introduce the people to the family, because that's also part of moving fast. It's like, hey, I just met you, but here's my mother. Interweaving Elsie and Ben's charmed romance with Elsie and Susan's healing process, Forever Interrupted will remind you that there's more than one way to find a happy ending. Now, this description does have the potential of being soul-crushing, heart-destroying, emotion-wrecking, so hopefully this is my next 5-star read. I'm gonna start reading it now in bed, because there's nothing like a little pain to help you fall asleep better. Also, I didn't do this on purpose, but I picked a pink nightgown after my shower, and the book is also pink. Also, this is Winnie the Pooh. Hey! Alright, let's go. Good morning! Yesterday I stayed reading until like 3 a.m. I got a good chunk in. The chapters aren't labeled onto page 75. The letters in this book are super tiny. It's an American edition. It's beautifully floppy. I think this might be the one, dudes. My dudes. I'm feeling it. This might actually be a 5 stars at the end of the day. I have a good feeling about this. So we are following, is it 2 timelines or 3 timelines? Hold on. It's 2 timelines. January timeline, which is basically when they met, all the way from their very first encounter to them starting dating and how their relationship is progressing. Obviously, I'm only 75 pages in, and we also need to account for the second timeline, so we're not that far into the relationship. But basically, from my understanding, that's the timeline where we're gonna see the love flourish between the two of them. Then we have the current timeline, we see June, so literally only 6 months later, and it's when the guy died, like we read on the synopsis, so it's not a spoiler. But they just got married, we don't know details yet of like how or when or anything, but they got married like 10 days ago and now the guy's dead. On that timeline, we are following Elsie powering through the grief and organizing everything and all of those things. And right in the beginning, the very first, like, I don't know, 15 pages of the book is literally the guy dying. And keep in mind that obviously that's the beginning of the book, so we have no repertoire with any of them, so we don't feel things as intensely as if that had happened halfway through a book. But even then, I was reading that description of him dying and her going to the hospital with him and how she was like seeing the body and Susan, his mom, was there. He didn't tell his mom about Elsie. The whole thing, I was reading it and I could feel my eyes burning with tears. And this is without having a repertoire of the relationship. So if this keeps digging at my emotions through the book, and obviously the more I read, the more in tune with the characters I'll get. That's why I say this might be a 5-star book, and I'm really excited. It's almost 4 p.m. and I'm still in the same spot where you seen me last. I'm on page 145. This book, man, this is heartbreaking. Heartbreaking in a way that it doesn't cause tears. It just causes heartbreak and pain. It's like I need to keep reminding me that he's not alive anymore. They're at the funeral now and oh my god. I haven't cried a single time, but I'm really enjoying this story. I'm on page 226. I have exactly 1 hour left, according to the audiobook. I'm starting to question it. Is this a 5-star book? I'm really enjoying it. It's a solid 4 stars, maybe even 4.5, because I'm really enjoying it. The story is just the correct amount of heartbreak and overall cuteness between the 2 timelines. But now I'm just questioning, is this one of my favorite books of all time? Because supposedly that's what a 5-star means, right? That you love the book so much that it goes to the top favorite books of your life. Is this one of them? Are you one of them? It's past midnight. It's time to carry on reading and finishing this book since the last time I spoke with you. Let's go. Let's find out if this is able to destroy my soul just a little bit more. I finished the book and I don't know what to tell you. Is this a 5 stars? I don't know. I literally finished the book. I went to grab some biscuits and I'm here trying to figure out if this is a 5-star or a 4.5. It was so good. Both timelines, they were both so good. And she was going through the grief with his mom. And honestly, I feel like his mom scenes, the way her mom lets you know that she's breaking on the inside. There's this scene where she says, I used to lay in my bed with him and his dad and we would watch Jeopardy, but now they're both gone and I still lay in that bed, but now I'm all alone. I'm like, I can't, I'm too weak. Like, the book was so good. However, the concept of the whole relationship, it is very stupid. This was like 6 months of a relationship where they actually got married within those 6 months. That's silly. I mean, why would you do that? The part when they start talking about in the past timeline where they were discussing the getting married, I was just like, but why are you in a rush? Why do you need to be married? Why can you not just be together? Like, they were living together and all of that. Cool. I'm all up for that. And for if you trust and you believe in your relationship, then fight for it. But why did he get married? That's so silly. And like, he didn't even tell about his mom and then he wanted to tell her. And then Elsie was like, no, because then you're going to change your mind. I mean, I get it. I get the explanation that she gave, that her parents didn't really like her and she was afraid that his mom wouldn't like her either and that she wouldn't be good enough to marry him. But why would you rush? And now here I am, eating the messiest biscuits of the history of biscuits, trying to figure out if this video is even over. Like in my heart, this is a 4.5. But then mathematically a 4.5 is a 5, and because I'm doing this video, I'm like, maybe I should just call it a 5. But it's not a 5, is it? I think it's gonna be a 4.5. Why am I doing these things to myself? I think it's gonna be a 4.5. And I need to read another book in 24 hours. And that book, my dudes, that book has to be the one, because otherwise I'm not gonna have enough time. So I'm gonna look there at that bookcase that you see over there. That's all the books I have to read. There has to be a 5-star book somewhere in there. Should I turn to the other Queen of Suffering, Colleen Hoover? Should I go for it? Is this a 5-star book? Oh my god, 889,000 ratings. 4.4. Okay, so this has been read more and has a better average rating than the other one. And if the other one was a 4.5 and it was so close, there is hope that this one is actually the one. So here we go again. Let's have a shower, put on my jammies and go to bed. And also this still matches my pink nightgown. I read 84 pages of this book. I'm liking it. It's still very much in the beginning, so it's hard to have formulated thoughts, but we are following Kenna, who's the girl who is 26-year-old and she just got out of prison. She was in prison because her boyfriend at the time, she was there for 5 years, did I mention that? So 5 years ago, her boyfriend died and she was accused of involuntary manslaughter. For the longest time, we don't know exactly why, like what happened, how did he die, or how was she involved in that. But now it's been revealed, but I'm gonna keep it a secret for you guys to not give you spoilers. So she was in prison for 5 years and she had a daughter with this guy. What was his name? Scotty. So her and Scotty had a daughter. Her name is Diem. So she just got out of prison and she goes back to the town where they used to live. And Diem is living with Scotty's parents, so her grandparents, Patrick and Jenna or Gemma? Grace. Patrick and Grace. Kenna never met her because when she was born, she was already in prison and she gave up all of her rights. And now, 5 years later, she goes back to the town and she's trying to meet her and to somehow be her mom after all this time. So she meets this guy, Ledger, at a bar and she doesn't notice when she first meets him. And this is a little bit of a spoiler, so if you want to skip ahead to know what's the relationship here, then skip ahead. I'll put the little spoiler card around. But Ledger was Scotty's best friend. She was supposed to meet him a bunch of years ago, but for some reason Ledger didn't show up and that's why she never met him. And so when she meets Ledger now at the bar, she doesn't know who he is until hours later he mentions his name and she remembers that Scotty's best friend was called Ledger, and what's the chances that there's two Ledgers in the same little town, right? So it's the same guy. When she was telling us how Scotty died, she was explaining why his parents would hate her. Like, imagine you have a son, and imagine this happens, and imagine that happens, and imagine he meets a girl, and imagine that girl does this, and that girl does that. And she uses that kind of sentences to tell us how he died. Very strong. Sad. Very sad. So I'm really enjoying it. However, I started having a headache and I had like a 45-minute nap to see if it would go away, but it didn't. So I'm gonna grab some coffee and then we're gonna carry on reading because it's very enjoyable so far. It's after dinner. I have just slightly over 1 hour to finish the book. I'm in the nursery. I came here to read because Josh is asleep in the front room and it's getting really dark in there and I didn't want to turn on the light and wake him up. But my office at the moment is not the most comfortable thing to read. I mean, it's okay, but the lighting isn't great. This is Suki. Hey, Suki dog. come up. And it's just a tiny bit too early to go read in bed. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna read in the nursery. I was gonna do it in the kitchen, in the sofa we have there. But the nursery is so nice. I will give you at some point a tour of the nursery. But either way, here I am. I'm gonna carry on reading. To this side. Good girl, here she is. You're confused, you don't know what this room is, don't you? It's all new. Does it smell new? Alright, let's get some reading done. Say bye to the people and let's get some reading done. Good girl. My camera ran out of battery, but I've just been here bawling my eyes out. I think I have one chapter, maybe 2 chapters left. The ending of this book, it's getting very intense. That's all I have to say. But I just wanted to go grab a new battery and update you because, like I said, there's like 1 chapter, maybe 2 tops left. I needed to catch a break as well from all the emotions. Okay, let's go. Hello. So the other day when I finished reading this, I was lost for words. I didn't know how to convey you my thoughts. So I decided instead of concluding the vlog, I'm just gonna have some biscuits and milk and forget about it. Or try to think about it in a way that I can come here and tell you what I thought. But 2 days have passed and I still have no idea what I thought, except I ended up giving this a 5 stars. As you can probably see by the length remaining of the video, this is the last book of this vlog. And the reason why I didn't record the update straight away was not because I wasn't sure it was a 5 stars, because it was a 5 star, so my emotions were damaged, which is exactly what I wanted. So this was great. Colleen, she never disappoints. I've had this book on my shelf for like a year and a half. And every time I read something really good from my shelf, I'm like, why did I wait so long to read it? And for some reason, when I first bought it, I really wanted to read it. And then through the months, I kind of lost that interest. I don't know, but I thought the story was about something else, but I also didn't have a specific plan in mind of what it was about. So I have no idea, but I'm glad that I read it and it's really good. And if you are looking to be emotionally devastated by a story, then this is the one for you. Is it the most absolutely heartbreaking story I've ever read? No, there is a few that I've read that are more devastating and more heartbreaking than this one, but this one is up there and ended up being a 5 stars. I've already told you what the story is about, I think. I don't know, but I don't want to make this vlog any longer than what it already is. So here it is. I read books until I found a 5-star rating. It took me 4 attempts, which is actually not that bad considering the slump that I'm in and the fact that I haven't had a single 5-star book yet this year. But here they are. I ended up having 2 really good books in this vlog and one big disappointment, the very first one that I read, and the second one, it was okay, but I gave it 4 stars and now I'm even considering lowering it to a 3 because it's been like a week since I read this one and I don't remember the details anymore, so maybe it's a 3 and not a 4. But it was still very fun and I enjoy doing this, and it just makes me wonder that if I only read the books that I think are gonna be 5 stars and I just got rid of everything else from my shelf, would my reading life not be happier? Or even if I'm reading a book, but then as soon as I realize it's not gonna be a 5 stars, maybe I should just DNF it and move on to the next read and just read things that are making me genuinely happy. Just a thought. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Thank you for coming along and for putting up with me for over a half an hour. Don't forget to go watch Natasha's video. The link for her channel is down there in the description, and I'll see you again very soon here on the channel for another video. And the 3rd episode of Insanity Goes On will come out on the 1st Sunday of July. See you then. Bye!